Please speak up so the people can hear you, so that I can hear you. You know I'm old, I can't hear you, so you got to speak
Oh,
up.
testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Can you hear me?
I hear you now. So, Raymond, I have your definition as a renowned photographer. If you could define, like the word journalist, define what a photographer is now in these days compared to when you first started. What define the word photographer?
Well, when I first started, of course, we were using film camera, and there was no autofocus camera. We had to manually focus ourselves, and we also had to develop our own film in the darkroom. Whereas now, you have the cameras that are digital, so you just put the card in and shoot.
So how are you defining photographer? Are you saying anyone could be a photographer?
Well, I mean, not anyone can be a photographer, but if you have a autofocus camera, or even like now they're making the cell phones compatible to the DCLR cameras now, where you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can shoot wide angle, you have flash, no flash. Now they have cameras now where you can take the picture with your phone, you can correct the blurred image. Whereas with the DCLR cameras, you have to do that. You have to set the camera yourself and do it yourself manually. But they're making it easier
So
now.
yes, the answer is anyone can be, with the right tools. They can be a photographer. What makes you special? Like, what makes you, Raymond Boyd, a special photographer that sets against the others?
Well, I mean, the only thing I would say that makes me special is I've been doing it for a long time, over 40 years now. I started out with, a little 110 Kodak camera. This was my very first camera that I started out with. So, but I mean, I didn't shoot professionally with that camera, of course, but that's the camera that got me to start taking pictures, Then I graduated to a Canon AE1, which was a film camera back then. And now I have two cameras. I have two, well, I guess high-end cameras. I have a Canon Mark II and a Canon Mark IV, which of course is digital. So you put the card in and you set your settings, and I have different lenses, a wide-angle lens for, of course, getting wide subjects. Telephoto lens if I want to just get from the waist up, portrait photography.
You're not
And
answering my question.
say it again.
You're not answering my question.
Okay.
You have
Repeat your
given
question.
me a list of all the things that you use to take photos, and I said, what do you think what makes you special? Because anyone can buy those pieces of equipment.
I wouldn't say anything makes me special. It's just that I've just been doing it for a long time, and I'm just dedicated to what I do. I don't know if that makes me special or not. It just makes me dedicated to my craft and what I'm doing.
So how do you, other than obviously going out taking a bunch of pictures, how do you get better? How do you improve every year? How do you improve with every image?
The way I improve with every image, I look at what I shot the last time. Then I try to not duplicate that, but I try to shoot it better by maybe positioning myself better, or get into a better situation where I can shoot it better, or practice makes perfect with anything you do. So it's the same as with photography. If I mess up the first time I go out, the next time I go out, I try not to mess up. I just try to shoot it better. I mean,
That's great.
I don't know if that's answering your question or not,
No,
but
it does. That does answer my question. I mean, now I remember when I put your intro in there, I was trying to remember all the places that your photos can be seen. Back when we started, you were writing for magazines and newspapers, but then you kind
right.
of elevated to concert. You told me a story about R. Kelly using your images for his concert, right? And
Lord,
then you
right.
elevated the docu-series, right? Talk about like your elevation as a photographer, how many places we can see your images.
Right now, TV1's program, docuseries Unsung, uses a lot of my photos on a regular basis. I've been with them since season 1, and then I think they're going on season 15 now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been with them ever since then, and I'm in there on their show on a regular basis. There's also a new documentary on Netflix called Ladies First, dealing with female in hip hop. I have like about 15 photos in that documentary. There's a documentary on Showtime with Biz Marquee, All Up in the Biz. I have 20 photos in that documentary, and 12 of them are of Biz Marquee. So, and the way that happens is sometimes a production company will reach out to me for photos that they're looking for the documentary, and they'll send me a list of what they're looking for. Then I go in my archive and go through my list to see what I have, to see if I have those photos. If I do, I send those in. And also, my photos are licensed through Getty Images, which is the go-to photo agency for when companies are looking to license images.
Largest in the world.
Right. And they're looking for photos to license for newspapers, magazines, TV. So my photos are licensed with Getty also.
What would you say if you were to categorize most of your images? Because I remember you saying you had over 80,000. So
right.
You're like a legendary musician, right? You don't have to make another song. You don't have to make another picture, because you really are working and making money off of your collection, right?
The archives, right.
Your archives. So what category? I think most of your images are music people, but how would you categorize your photos?
Well, it is predominantly music, entertainment, as far as concert photography, and also different entertainment events. But since I stopped shooting concerts about 7 years ago, now I do cityscapes and landscapes, where I travel to different cities like Detroit, even in Chicago, and I photograph the different historical landmarks around there.
Places that you can drive.
Yes, but I'm not getting on the airplane. I'm not getting on the plane.
Okay, so, yes. Aretha Franklin.
So yes, places where I can drive to and just capture the different historic landmark buildings, churches, bridges, and then that's all. And those photos are licensed to Getty now more so than my entertainment photos were.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay,
yes.
So, but people have popularized you. You've gotten popular from your music. From your music captures, right? When you were taking concerts, right? How did you start taking concerts, and how were you able to get so many like iconic photos?
Well, the way I started in the concert photography was when I first started professionally with Chicago Defender newspaper here. Eric Calloway, who was the fine arts editor, would always see me at different concerts backstage and ask me who I shot for. So at the time I would shoot for anyone. I just shoot for myself because I knew people who could get me in the concerts and backstage and stuff like that. So I would shoot different concerts, and one time Earl finally saw me again and told me that I had a talent and not to waste it by just shooting, just for fun. So he asked me to come down to his office at Chicago Defender, which I did. I became an entertainment photographer for Chicago Defender. So I started shooting concerts for the Defender. And that led me to shooting for my very first magazine I submitted photos to was Rock and Soul magazine based out of New York. And my first ever photo published was of Roger Troutman. I don't know if you can see this. Roger Troutman of Zap. That was my very first photo ever published in Rock and Soul magazine. And from Rock and Soul magazine, I picked up Right On magazine, Cynthia Horner. So from Right On magazine, I was able to use Rock and Soul magazine as a reference where I previously had photos published. So from Rock and Soul magazine, I went to Right On magazine. And from Right On magazine, I went to Black Beat magazine. And from Black Beat magazine, I went to Word Up magazine, then to Rap Master, then to Fresh, then to Yo. Then here in Chicago, Ebony and Jet, Sister to Sister. And another magazine also that I shot for when I first started called RPM. It was based out of Atlanta, Georgia. So that was another good experience as far as me shooting photos.
Do you remember? I mean, back then we used to go to like press junkets because everybody would want the media to come in and they would bring us in. Do you remember how we met or where we met, Raymond?
Yes, we actually met in Miami, Florida. Actually, it was the first, actually the very first How Can I Be Down music conference. It was held in Miami, Florida at David Hyatt's house. And David Hyatt at the time was the president of Tab Dash Records, among other things we found out later. But that was the beginning, probably maybe the first major music conference. Tupac was there, Aaron Hall from Guy was there. What's his name from MTV? Ed Lover was there.
It was a lot of people. Yeah, it was a lot of people.
Shaq G from Digital Underground, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was the first major music conference. We met in Miami, and we all got locked out of our rooms for a minute. You know.
We won't
talk about that one though.
That was an interesting experience. So how did you, I mean, you mentioned a little bit about how you got started when you started with newspapers and you kind of transitioned to magazines, but how did you get started even taking pictures? Where was the impetus? Where was the beginning? Where did it start?
Well, the very beginning of that, well, actually that all started when a friend of mine who had graduated from high school named Mark Williams, he was an on-air personality in the Air Force in Minnesota, and he just happened to be doing an interview with the group, the Barcades at that time. So the Barcades mentioned to him.
Barcades, okay. Uh-huh.
Right. So the Barcades mentioned to him that they were coming to Chicago for this big funk festival at Soldier Field with Taste of Honey, George Clinton Parliament, Confunction, a whole bunch of groups. So not only did Mark get us photo passes for that concert, but he also got us to be able to ride to Soldier Field with the Barcades on their tour bus. So that was the concert that really got me started, because that was my first time being backstage, first time being around a famous group, stuff like that. So even with that concert, I'm able to scan those photos, and that was back in 1979, I want to say. So I'm able to scan those photos and still send those into Getty and still get paid for those photos too, even though they were shot 30, 40 years ago.
Explain how that works. I mean, how did you start working with Getty? And kind of explain, is Getty like a music label? You sign on with them and they sell your talent? How does it work? Please, Ray.
Okay. Yeah, the way I got with Getty Images, I used to be with a company called Michael Oakes Archives. And Michael Oakes Archives was like a Getty on a smaller scale. And the way I got with Michael Oakes Archives is that they bought the photo files of Black Beat magazine. They noticed that my name was on a lot of the photos in those in those files. So they contacted me, explained to me what Michael Oakes Archives was and what they did as far as people reaching out to them. They wanted to license photos for album covers, same thing that Getty does. So back in February of 2007, I got a letter from Michael Oakes himself letting me know that Getty had acquired his company, that I was one of the photographers that they were bringing over from Michael Oakes over to Getty. So that's how I was able to get to Getty. So I like to say that I got in Getty through the back door. But once I got with Getty, my work sold more and was on a more further reach than it was with Michael Oakes.
Okay, now I gotta ask a personal question.
Okay.
Because we was only making like hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars with magazines. How much are you making with Getty? Like, what's the price range? What do you do?
Now, one thing I do not do, I don't talk about money. I don't like to do that. But
your image is like $800 on Getty, so I know you making something.
They need more than that. But one thing, like I said, I don't like to talk about that. Let's just say I make a lot. I mean, I'm comfortable. I'm doing fine.
Compared to magazines, comparatively.
Say it again.
If you would compare.
Well, the magazines back then, like they would only pay you maybe $25 per photo or $100 per photo, depending on if it was a full page or a center spread. Okay, I'll say this. Access Television licensed a photo of mine from Getty of Shaka Khan for $16,000.
Shut up.
So that's
right.
That's the kind of money.
I got it. There you go.
Yeah. But of course, it's a 50-50 split with me and Getty. So Getty get half and I get half, which still is
But
not
you
bad.
sell so many images so often.
Right, exactly.
I got it. Okay,
Right, because if anything, that photo could just been sitting laying around collecting dust. But by being in the Getty archives, I'm able to make nice money, nice living.
So one of the last questions that I want to ask you is because you mentioned Aretha Franklin, you mentioned Ralph Chapman, you mentioned, who else did you mention? I mean, talk to me about first of all, show me some images, but give me any backstories about how you got in, what they were like, when you were able to meet these people and take images of it. What was it like? Okay,
this is one of my favorite memories. I don't know if you can see this. This is Michael Jackson backstage during the Victory Tour in Chicago. And the way I got backstage for that concert was Steve Manning, who was a good friend of both of ours. And
shout out to Steve Manning.
Friend of the Jackson family. He got me backstage during the Victory Tour. And at that time, I still wasn't shooting for anybody. I just knew Steve Manning. So actually, I met Steve Manning when I first photographed New Edition back in '84. He was the publisher for New Edition. So once the Victory Tour came to Chicago, Steve contacted me and asked me do I want to go to the concert. So of course I said yeah. So he got me backstage in the trailer with where they were before they got dressed to go out on stage. And once we got into the trailer, everybody went to the back where Michael was. I stayed in the front with Miss Jackson, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon, and talked to them and photographed them. Then when it was time to leave for them to go on stage, I saw Michael back there by himself. So I went back to the back and introduced myself to Michael, to my other friend Steve Manning, dropping the name, of course. And once I mentioned to Michael that I was a friend of Steve Manning, that made him smile, because he knew Steve, of course. So I was able to just get the photo of Michael just posing by himself, and get another photo that he posed for me as he was exiting out the trailer. So
show me like a couple more of the iconic photos that everybody has seen, didn't know, that might not have known that you had taken it.
I'm sure everyone has seen this photo. I don't know if you can see this.
That's definitely a classic.
Right, this is a classic.
Where'd you take that?
Okay, this was in 1984 at the UIC Pavilion during the Fresh Festival.
And how did you get in?
Okay, but at that time, I was shooting for Fresh magazine. So once the tour, the Fresh Festival came here, of course you contacted the management, which was Rush Management, Bill Adler. So I requested a photo pass for the concert, and once the photo pass was clear, I was able to get backstage, not only to shoot the concert and to meet different artists. That's why I met Jermaine Dupri, who at that time was a young, break dancer for Houdini. So that was one of my classic DMC shots. And this photo is a classic New Edition photo shot in 1983. When New Edition.
Oh my God! Wait! Hold it still. Oh my God! Where was that taken?
I was taken at NBC Studio. They were in Chicago doing a show called Kidding Around, which is like a little teeny bopper show. So they were the guests on the show. So I was able to be there. Thanks to Steve Manning again. And once the show was over, I had them pose for me. And I've also photographed New Edition since that, throughout their career, since they first started. So and that's another thing that I like about photography, was being at the beginning of a lot of artists' careers, such as New Edition and Brandy, when she first came to Chicago, when her album first came out. That was a club enters back in the day. So
nice.
A lot of fun.
Nice.
One last classic photo.
Okay. Oh, that is a classic. Yeah.
Right. And this photo was one of the photos that was on display in my exhibit in Nashville. Ran from January to March. It was like their celebration of the 50 years of hip hop.
So you mentioned that you were in an exhibit on museums. How does that happen, and how does it feel to have your work displayed with you there? Because obviously people don't get a chance to see what the photographer looks like. Right. How does that feel coming from behind the camera?
Oh, I'm getting used to it, but the way that came about was I got an email from Dr. Brian Pierce, who was the curator of the National Museum of African American Music in Nashville. and he wanted me to get in touch with him about a collaboration project he wanted to work on. So once I got in touch with him, he mentioned to me about doing a 14 photo exhibit, with the museum celebrating the 50 years of hip hop. And it'll be 4 photographers. I'll represent the Midwest. And you have one representing the East Coast, West Coast, and the South. But the response I got from my exhibit was great. It was just different being, in front of the camera and everybody looking at the photos, and what was good for me was just sitting back watching people looking at their reaction, looking at the photos. And then once I would approach them to let them know those were my photos, they get excited and want to take a picture with me and want to talk to me more about the different photos that was on display. But that was great. It was a good experience.
It seems like the natural evolution of a photographer is to be in museums, to be in books, to do mentoring. Where do you see yourself in your career in the next couple of years as you continue to evolve? You froze. I didn't hear your question. You kind of froze up. Where do you see your career in the next couple of years as you continue to evolve?
I see myself doing more exhibits. I see myself. I'm still in the process of scanning a lot of my old school R&B and hip hop photos for the Getty Archive. I have 2 more boxes of photos to scan, which were all of my award shows I went to, as for the BET Awards and Essence Awards, Lady of Soul Awards, Image Awards. So once I scan all those photos, then I'm done scanning all of my photos. So I still continue to travel and photograph different cities and stuff like that, like I did before. But I just want to do more exhibits, probably, I don't know, lectures maybe, I don't know, who knows.
Books, lectures.
Well, yeah, I definitely want to do a coffee table book. Everyone's been asking me about doing a coffee table book, so that's on the agenda also.
Okay, the last question. I am a young person. I love to take pictures, but I don't know if I'm any good at it, right? I take pictures for social media all the time. What do I do, not only to know if I am good at it and I have an eye, but how do I get better?
See, that's a loaded question, because everybody have their own unique style or their own way that they shoot. But
I want to follow a career like yours.
Say it again?
I want to have a career like yours.
Okay, well, I'll put it like this. If you're trying to get published, I would say gather your best photos that you think will enhance the content of that publication. Reach out to the photo editor of that magazine, send your best photos along with a nice letter explaining who you are, what you do, your background. And once you send those photos in, also send a self-addressed stamped envelope in case they don't like the photos, then they send them back to you. That's how it was back in the day when I first started. And once you send your best photo, then it shouldn't be a problem. The photo editor will look at them and they shoot, or if they feel that it's something that they like, then they reach out to you, and that should work for you. I don't know if that answers the question, but
no, it did. I mean, I don't know if people put anything in the mail with a self-addressed stuffed envelope anymore.
I mean, that was the standard, but now you could probably email a package to someone maybe, and let them see what you have, or if you have a website link, or I guess any type of way to show your work, then that'd probably be the best thing to do.
What are you thinking about, like, as a photographer, if you go somewhere and you take 20 images and you end up posting like 15 on your social media? What are your thoughts about photographers sharing all of their images online versus? Well,
one thing I don't do. Well, one thing I stopped doing was posting images on social media such as Facebook, because number one, it's like you give me a product for free. And although this didn't happen to me, but it happened to a photographer friend of mine. She had a photo that she posted on Facebook with her watermark on it. But at the same time, another photographer stole her photo, took her watermark off of it, and put his watermark on it. So that stopped her from posting on social media. But I stopped posting on social media before that, though. But to me, I just think it's like you're giving your product away, because someone can easily right-click on that photo and save it. And even though it may be a low-res image, they can still keep it and have it in their own personal use for whatever. And plus, if I'm not mistaken, if you post on Facebook, they own all the photos that's on Facebook anyway, and they can do whatever they want to do with them.
I never knew that. So Facebook owns my images, that I can't even sell my own images to a media outlet. They can sell my images to a media outlet.
Right. They can actually take your photo, put it on the poster board, and you can be driving down the expressway and see your photo on the billboard. And there's nothing you can do about it because you posted it on Facebook, and Facebook owns it.
Wow, I never knew that. Wow. Okay. All right. In conclusion, thank you for talking to me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, I guess the last question that I have to ask is, where can people see your work? What are you doing next? How can they follow you? What's your handle?
My only social media outlet is Facebook. I don't have Instagram yet, although other photographers tell me I should get Instagram. But at the same time, when you still post on Instagram, they can still right-click on your photos and steal them. So I'm just on Facebook. And the only thing I use Facebook for is to post links to my work that I may have, such as the documentary photo that I have, on Netflix or TV One with Unsung. So you see me on Facebook.
You got a website too, don't you?
Oh yes. Well, my website is www.raymondboyd.com. If I'm not mistaken, it's under construction right now, but it should be re-up, in a matter of days.
That's cool. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Raymond Boyd. I appreciate you taking your time with me today.
I appreciate you too, Ms. Hutson.
All right, we'll cut this together and we'll get this to you in a couple of days.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.